Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me and allowing me to continue to be your daily advocate. If you're new here or you're not subscribed for any reason, please do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. Thank you to all of you who have been watching and following me for so long. It truly means a lot, and I'm glad that I can be this person.
So guys, just today we had a major filing in the Ripple SEC case. Both Ripple and the SEC got together to file their timeline for summary judgment. This gave us a guideline for when we can expect this case to end. Worst case scenario, and it looks like it could be going all the way to summer of 2023 if it does not get settled. That's because Ripple and the SEC got together and they are not supposed to be done filing for summary judgment until Christmas. Yes, you heard that right, Christmas. Now, before you guys freak out and think, oh my god, this thing is never gonna end, this is only the timeline for summary judgment. I am still firmly convinced that this case is gonna settle, and I actually think this ruling made settlement all the more likely. If you guys are thinking that's just hopium, or I'm just trying to be positive about what's going on, let me tell you right now that is not the case at all. I'm going to show you in this video why settlement is more likely than ever and show you guys evidence for why that's the case. I also want to make it perfectly clear. It is better for my entire portfolio and Ripple if they win this thing at summary judgment. I don't think there's any way that happens though, and after you guys watch this whole video, I think you're gonna agree, so make sure you stick around for the whole thing. Before we get into any of that though, I think it's really important that I show you what Brad Garlinghouse and Stuart Alderoty had to say about this most recent filing, because they tore Gary Gensler apart, and I just think it's very important that we listen to these high-level people at Ripple, because at the end of the day, they are the people in the know. But I'm also gonna break down why they might be saying this later in the video and how it plays perfectly into the settlement discussion. So hot off the press, Brad Garlinghouse said, over the past couple years, I've found myself becoming far more familiar with the SEC than I ever thought possible. I guess same, right? Which is why it's beyond ironic that one of their goals is to provide disclosure. Guess they don't need to abide by their own rules. The SEC seems perfectly content to let the US fall further behind, all in the name of protecting their own jurisdiction at the expense of US citizens. Politics over policy is good for no one. We need a clear regulatory framework now. And that was actually in response to Stuart Alderoty, who said, to all that have been following the case thus far, thank you. Know that Ripple is pushing hard, and the court is working hard to resolve the case as soon as possible. Despite the SEC time and time again doing everything they can to delay. It now looks like a resolution will come in 2023. And each day that passes is hurting US citizens who were essentially the victims of a rug pull by the SEC. $15 billion in XRP market cap was destroyed the day the suit was filed, hurting the very people the SEC is supposed to protect. In December 2020, as Clayton and Hinman packed their bags, calling them out by name right there, the SEC didn't seek a court injunction to stop XRP trading in the US when they filed the suit because they knew they couldn't get one. Effectively, the case has done so anyway, prime example of regulation by enforcement. Chair Gensler preaches, justice delayed is justice denied when firms try to defend themselves from the SEC bullying investigations and inquiries. Quite the contrast from the SEC using every tactic at their disposal to keep this cloud of uncertainty over the market. Justice delayed indeed. The Biden executive order estimated that 40 million Americans own crypto today. No thanks to the SEC, who insists on saying that all or most tokens are securities and the US exchanges are running unlawful security exchanges. If you ask which ones, no comment, no disclosure. Gensler refuses to offer any specifics whatsoever, and the SEC hasn't sought to shut down any exchanges because they know they don't have any real jurisdiction over this $2 trillion industry. Boom, roasting the SEC. In the meantime, though, they'll leverage every tactic to create market confusion. Already, we're seeing a massive transfer of crypto talent, tech, and wealth moving offshore to jurisdictions with rational regulatory frameworks. Entrepreneurs are being advised to not start their project in the US. How long is this going to be allowed to continue? This was excellently said by Stuart Alderati, and something at the end that I thought was huge, really shows what's going on here. He said they don't have any real jurisdiction over the $2 trillion industry, essentially calling out the SEC for trying to keep everything uncertain, because once certainty comes, the SEC is gonna have the door slammed on their face. So with all of that said, one thing you probably noticed was in the beginning, Stuart Alderati said it looks like a resolution will come in 2023. So why am I so confident that there still will be a settlement, despite the fact that the legal counsel, the head of the legal counsel at Ripple, saying we will not have a resolution until 2023? Well, first of all, this is once again talking about summary judgment, not a settlement. And there are some factors that I'm about to show you that are going to make you guys realize the SEC would not dare go to summary judgment. They would rather lose this case by telling Ripple XRP is not a security in writing and dropping this thing, giving up. And I think what I'm about to show you is going to make you guys believe that too. So I want to start off real quick before we get into that and just show you that even John Deaton still acknowledges that a settlement is very possible. He said a settlement prior to a ruling comes down to the emails and comments with edits and the 68 drafts of the Hinman speech and whether the SEC will be forced to turn them over. So John Deaton still thinks that if the SEC is forced to hand over these Hinman emails, there is no way they're going to take this thing to summary judgment. He thinks the SEC is going to refuse to hand over these emails still, and that's going to force the SEC to drive a settlement with Ripple. But what if I told you summary judgment being pushed back so far actually made this scenario we just talked about more likely? Stephanie Hubert tweeted out, okay, probability of settlement just increased. This would put summary judgment well into 2023, as Phylon Law said. I strongly assume they will get the Hinman emails before that date. So before, when we thought summary judgment could be filed sooner, we thought maybe the Hinman emails would be ruled on after summary judgment already happened, which means Ripple would have won outright in summary judgment before these emails ever got ruled on by the court. But what Stephanie Hubert is saying is because summary judgment was actually pushed out so much further, it actually makes it highly likely that these Hinman emails will be ruled on by the court before summary judgment, which means, based on what John Deaton had to say, the SEC is highly likely to be forced to settle this case before summary judgment, which is perfectly in line with this case settling before 2023. Well, what makes me so convinced that Ripple will in no doubt win fair notice at summary judgment and the SEC cannot afford to let this happen? Well, in 2015, as pointed out by John Deaton, there was a settlement with FinCEN between Ripple where FinCEN declared XRP a convertible virtual currency and not a security. Well, what does FinCEN have to do with the SEC? Well, John Deaton points out in 2006, FinCEN and the SEC announced a collaboration and information sharing agreement between the two agencies. And that's the bombshell. The SEC was working with FinCEN in 2015 when FinCEN declared XRP a virtual currency, which means the SEC was fully aware that Ripple was being told by FinCEN that XRP was a virtual currency and not a security, and the SEC didn't say anything about it. The SEC let Ripple go on this entire time thinking that XRP was, without a doubt, not a security, and then threw this lawsuit at them out of nowhere. That is the definition of not having fair notice. And that's why I tweeted out, this tweet thread alone should give the SEC nightmares about the strength of Ripple's fair notice defense. The SEC cannot afford to go to summary judgment because they are literally accepting their own defeat, but not only a defeat to Ripple, a defeat to the rest of the cryptocurrency industry. The SEC would rather throw out this case against Ripple, say XRP is not a security because they know it's not a security. it's not worth them taking such a monumental loss that will affect them in all future cases. And with all that said, let me show you one last very suspicious thing that I believe is telling us there's going to be a settlement, and that has to do with Ripple and the SEC's agreement to push summary judgment off as far as possible. And you might be thinking, agreement? What? Yes, Ripple agreed to the worst case scenario for summary judgment with the SEC. Why would they ever do that unless the plan all along was to settle this case? We know Ripple wants out of this. We know the SEC can't afford to go the distance. Summary judgment is highly unlikely for both parties. They're going to get together. They're going to hash this thing out. And at the end of the day, XRP is going to be the only cryptocurrency in the US market with certain clarity.
So enjoy your day, everybody. I'm always here for you. Leave any comments or questions below, and be sure to subscribe. But thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you. Enjoy your day, and I always have your back. So thanks so much, everybody.